All right, here's a question. Did you know that the quality of your life, your experience, your current experience of life, did you know that that quality, whether you want to think about it specifically in either departments of your life, personal, work, financial, romance, anything, or just overall, did you know that that quality is directly not only correlated, but actually caused by the quality of the questions that we ask? So, what does that mean? We're going to talk about that in this program. Well, hello, you beautiful soul. Thank you for joining us on 360 Degrees of Bliss, special 360-degree video, immersive travel footage, as well as questions that I had to ask for myself to be the person that I am today. By the way, I wanted to make a disclaimer right here, right now. I claim to know nothing. I am nobody, and I have no intentions of even telling anybody what is right or wrong. I just want to share with you some questions. My research and my work that I've done for myself to redefine myself after having lost everything because of COVID. Well, not because of COVID, really. When COVID happened, that's when I lost my lifelong career, businesses, I should say. And it was like the experience of everybody. By the way, if you're watching this as the video version on YouTube, you're watching this beautiful experience underwater at Xcaret Park in Mexico, in Cancun, in Riviera Maya, actually, Playa del Carmen, to be more specific than exact. This is their under the water experience, which is very, very unique. And there is like a bubble right on the camera. That's a bubble of water. Don't mind it, please. Just try to make whatever use you can out of it. It's a beautiful experience. If you're wondering about this place, you could just watch the video and see if you like the experience. But I think it's definitely worth it. This is the one I chose to do while I was there. And yeah, I just share videos of me going around the world because I'm traveling with my partner Star. For the next few years, we're going to be going to see different countries around the world, as you know, we are blessed enough to, like I said, after COVID, to redefine ourselves, rebirth our identities of who we thought we were. I had a crazy life pre-COVID, which all turned into ashes, leading to depression. Really, and I guess an explosion in an ongoing depression that was there for a few years. So it wasn't fun. I know many people, like billions of people, were devastated as a result of direct or indirect indirectly the mandates, what has happened, economical, health, relationships, so many things, so many ways, businesses. Anyways, so we had to redefine ourselves, and in this show, I will be sharing with you some thoughts on this very important question and how just understanding this concept literally gives you a perspective shift. And a perspective shift is so important because perspective is essentially our filters that create a perspective for us. Now, this is very important to understand because you can have two different people that were literally brought up in the same family. And if the father, let's say, of the family did something very horrible and was thrown into jail for, say, 20 years, that man can have 2 sons, and this often does happen. Fast forward 30 years, each son is 30-year-old now, if they were 1 year when the father was caught. And one of them could be having an absolutely fantastic life, and the other one could be absolutely living in terrible conditions. The funny thing is, if you ask each one of them, how did you become who you are? They would both say, how could I not have become who I am because of the father that I had? So they both had the same father, just 2 different places that they arrive in life, just because of the question that they asked was framed within their perspective to give them a different answer, which gets them to behave completely differently. So that happens to all of us. And just having figured out this question alone in our minds doesn't even matter, because it's not that easy to figure out what our question is. Remember, everybody has a question. By the way, it's called the primary question. Everybody has that primary question. And what happens is that other than our patterns and cycles which we have put into place, that, by the age of 35, usually about 90 to 93% of our identities, which means, the things we do, things we say, the actions that we take, that's on repeat by then, which means we have picked up so many things that are just now running on the program mode in the background. Think about just waking up. The first thing you do is always the same thing, followed by the second, followed by the third, followed by the fourth. Now, when we were creating these patterns, as we were stacking them to kind of create who we are today, we were initially always asking that primary question on whether we should make the commitment to actually go through adding any routine to our daily schedules, to our daily lives. And if they passed, then we put them in, and we just kept on committing more and more to them, and they have really made up who we are right now. The funny thing is, if you're over 35, about, you say, at best 10% of your decisions are now being made consciously at the time. The rest is all on some sort of a program, which we can talk about later on, and we would for sure. But everything else you do new now, you're asking yourself something subconsciously, and that's your primary question, which is not often, like 99% of the times, happened as a result of 2 major experiences during our childhood growing up, that one of them had terrified us, say, of something, and put within us this need to now rectify this situation so it doesn't happen, the pain is not caused the next time. And then the next time we do something and that pain is not caused in the same kind of situation that our brain at the time had perceived that we are in. So let's try to make it more simple. Say we are playing with our toys, and our dad comes home and he's very angry. We are making noises, just playing with our toys, and our dad comes home, he's had a very crappy day, and he just yells at us and says, whatever, you're too loud. If the child is playing with their toys and they're making noise at that moment, they don't understand what the parent has had and what the experience was that they had gone through on that day. In their mind, they say, I got yelled at and punished because I was loud. Now, the interesting thing becomes, the next time they're playing, and if they are not loud, and the father just randomly comes in, just smiles at them and gives them a kiss or something, now they're going to attribute the lack of their noise while they were playing to actually being rewarded. And Meanwhile, the father could not have even known. Like, they could have just kissed them for no reason. But now the kid actually, because they wanted not to experience that pain again, they correlate not being exuberant and not making noise that childs do. Otherwise, I would A, get punished, or now that I don't do it, I'm getting rewarded. So now that child is going to be asking their question in their mind, moving forward, because of those two massive experiences, that how can I do what I'm doing more quietly? And imagine how now that would affect and shape the life that this person is about to have at the age of, say, 5, 6, moving forward. Every decision, every time that kid is about to make, it's going to be a question in my mind, not even knowing it at a subconscious level. How do I do what I do, what I'm about to do, more quietly? How not to disturb others while I'm doing what I want to do? And that is why you see people then often becoming very different people in the same family. You even have twins that are born to the same family. Pretty much like 98%, 90 some percent, usually identical twins have like even same DNA. Raised by the same parents at the same standards. And then what happens is they end up being completely different in personality. So, the primary question drives all of our lives. Now, how do we find our primary question? That is a whole different conversation, but just keep in mind that we all have a primary question. And that primary question, by the way, is not one that you intentionally have decided on based on your life goals. For example, your primary question that is now being asked subconsciously, and by the way, the kicker is answered also subconsciously, because now what happens is when your primary question is asked, as you age through life and you gather more experiences, whatever experience you perceive to be unpleasant, which by the way is a whole different conversation, because we only make the perception because we just talked about it to one scenario, one event. One person makes it as a power for them, as an event that helped them to push through life and become a better person. And while the other person plays a victim, uses that to say, how could I even have a good life when I didn't have a father that was there to give me love and guidance? Then, therefore, I am also miserable. So this is very, very important, but to say every situation that has ever happened to us, and if we perceive that situation, that instance, whatever happened, to be a bad experience, to be painful, and the more painful it is, the more our brain will remember it and hold on to it as an experience to be used as a reference point for future experiences, where the brain tries to kind of immediately, at a very quick subconscious level, decide whatever we're about to do, does it fit any patterns? Because remember, that's what the brain is. It's essentially, the brain is a pattern recognizing and creating machine. It just creates patterns, and all it does is it creates to scan the environment using the 5 senses. Well, really the 6 senses, but for the point of the conversation, we'll just go into 5. All your senses. And basically, it tells you what it thinks are the patterns that it picks up. So within the same environment, you can have a person who's terrified of, say, something, and everybody else is having a great time. I mean, you often see this in phobias, because it's just their experience has created such a dynamic where the stimulus for them is different, even though the environment is the same. So questions create our quality of life. And it is so important to understand this. Your quality of question can greatly, even immediately, change how you perceive life. If you were to ask the right questions, by the way, that's the important thing, because what you ask, that's the important thing. And now, how do we know what the quality is? Literally look at the quality of the life that people are experiencing. And I'm not going to say judge. It's just see if that is what you want to experience. There is no good or bad. There is no this one is better than that one. You know, like, hey, whatever life you want to experience, just look at the quality of the life of those people. And top of the line, just go, for example, if you want to get into fashion, whoever is your fashion guru, or whatever, if you want to get into sciences, who's your top of the line, go watch their interviews on YouTube and see what kind of questions they're being asked, what kind of questions that person is most importantly asking. That's so important. And start asking those same questions yourself. That is literally how you see great people becoming great. Because your brain, as I said, and as science now has known for decades, is a pattern recognizing machine. And what pattern is it trying to recognize? Well, the patterns that it's trying to create are the answers to questions that you ask from it. It's so basic. I love it. So if you ask your brain, listen, how can I go from this place to my friend's house over there? Your brain's going to tell you, well, get in your car and we're going to take this street. Or if we don't know, we're going to go into our GPS and we're going to ask them, send us. Anyway, it's going to give you a solution. Now, here's the thing. If you don't ask your brain anything, what does your brain do? Your brain just tries to create patterns to present to you on its own without any invocation of presenting patterns, because that's what it's just being addicted to doing. It just goes like, oh, did you know that there's like a credit card that's now due? Oh, did you know that we just passed this ice cream place? Did you want to have ice cream? Oh, no, we don't want to have ice cream. We're trying to watch what we're going to eat. It's just creating different patterns that it wants to just create this conversation constantly, because we're not asking it to do anything. Remember, no matter what we believe, we all know humans are still mammals. And like every other mammals, we are trained the same. I mean, this is like Pavlov in psychology. This is nothing new. Like the conditioning of human mind is the same as it is with animals, like just rewards and punishment. And that's how we learn everything in life. So it is no different. It is really no different. Oh, and here I am coming out of the water.
Oh my God, that was crazy! Oh. Thank you guys. Wow. Thank you. That was great. I appreciate it. Wow. That was crazy. Yes.
Well, all right. The previous experience finished underwater in Ashkare. And now the next video you're seeing is of the continuation of the path that you walk out of in the water park area. Anyways, the conversation continues as such because I don't wish to make these long. I want to just make them as a conversation between me and my friends, the same that I always do with my partner Star. I want to share with all of you all the conversations that we have, because we've spent just so much time, resources, money, trying to redefine ourselves, to rebuild ourselves, our businesses from scratch, after losing so much and rebuilding, and now coming to a point of life where experience is just taking us to new all-time highs that we haven't even dreamt of before. So as everything fell down, the phoenix rises from the ashes. That is the beautiful part of this whole experience that we are sharing with you. The rebirth is always more grand and more beautiful. And by the way, the rebirth, I don't want to put this like, it's like a cliche. The rebirth is really you just deciding that you want to be a new person altogether. Like basically when you change your primary question, you become a new person, because now not only every new decision you're about to make is going to be having to undergo a whole different set of questions, filters, and perceptions, but also your previous habits and patterns that have made you the person that you are now are going to have to be kind of retested against that new question, that new primary question. But on a micro scale, think about this. If you just start asking with just some basic questions, such as, what do we know from finance? Where do we stand in our financial lives? Am I okay financially right now? If I don't work for a month, do I have enough not to worry so I don't have to like freak out? Do I have enough savings for a few months if I ever don't? I mean, we all saw what happened with COVID. The entire world went into lockdowns. It just tells you everything is possible. And now there is a glooming risk of a huge, unprecedented financial recession that the entire world has upon it, likes of which we haven't experienced really. Economists and special investment portfolio managers, hedge fund managers, they're all saying 1920s, the Great Depression, that was probably the closest to what's about to be experienced. And put aside all the craziness in the world that is happening, the war in Russia and Ukraine, the revolution that's happening in the Middle East, in Iran, and so many other wars that are still, like China and Taiwan, and Europe with their glooming winter scenarios of, heating, and what is really about to happen? Nobody knows. All that we know is that, oh, by the way, I did not mention the global housing crisis crash that's about to happen, mostly in, by the way, advanced, like first world or whatever nations. I don't know. I don't want to put labels, but like the Western countries, like Canada, has a huge housing bubble that, despite the fact that they've almost be deflated by about 20-30%, is still nowhere near where it needs to be. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're hearing this, by the way, that's why I did acknowledge you as a beautiful soul. You are at the right place at the right time. I want to have you thank yourself, because there is a reason that even if accidentally you've stumbled and you've stuck around for this long into the podcast, that you are here. And it is my privilege to be able to have your attention for this long. I know your attention is very valuable, and I want to honor you, and I want to send you my love for just being here, not even knowing what was about to happen, and just sticking it out through this journey. But I do wish to ask you to do engage, just leave some comments for me underneath the video and tell me. I'm going to be reading every comment, because I want to see what questions you're asking. Let's just share some of our primary questions, like what is driving you? If you have figured it out, or if I've planted hopefully a seed in your mind right now, at least it's something to think about next time you're about to make a decision about whether to leave or stay at your work, or whether to leave a relationship or stay, or whether to go out with somebody or not, whether you're to eat a new food or not, whether to buy a new thing or not. That primary question was already asked in your brain at your subconscious level and answered for you. But if you hold yourself at that exact moment and you say, hold on, why am I arriving to the conclusion of yes or no? Whatever it is, test it and ask yourself, why did I just make this decision? Why did I do a yes or no? And then you're going to be surprised if you ask with conviction, like if you literally ask yourself, like with some oomph, hey, why did I just do this? Why? I need to know. I need to know right now. Why did I decide to do this. If you do this, you're going to get an answer. And the funny thing is, don't stop there, because you just uncovered you just basically took your first ever step in taking control of your life. And, this may sound cliche, but that is your first step in identifying that there is a matrix, and the matrix is literally the program that we all individually decide to consciously at one moment to run on repeat, and then we haven't even checked them sometimes in decades. Some of our habits are so old we don't even remember why we were doing them, and we're still doing them. Things as basic as how do you take a shower? When you step into the shower, the moment literally you open the water, how do you get under the water? Pay attention to that next time. If the water, for example, like some people go head first into the water. Some people just stay out of the water and just like splash it on their chest or on their face or whatever, or some people put their feet in it first. But then you'll notice that whatever you do, the next time you do the same thing, the next time you do the same thing. So these are all patterns that create who we are. And if you pay attention, people who are absolutely at top of the pyramid, doesn't even matter what kind of a pyramid, they have crazy management and awareness of what their patterns are. Oh my God, look at these. These are like some sharks. I love these. They look so beautiful. By the way, I don't know if you knew, you could like move these videos around. These are 360s. So if you have glasses on, you can obviously be there. And sorry, I don't know when these are going up and down what happens with glasses, but I think same thing. Definitely interesting. If you're listening to this podcast as an audio, check out the videos too. They're very, very interesting. Anyways, I want to try to wrap up this conversation. But my friend, if you're going to take anything from this conversation upon which you stumbled, I don't know how, there is a message here for you from the universe, from God, from, grace, Lord, Jesus, whoever, Allah you think, Brahma is the big dude. Whoever is your big dude, this is probably a message for you, as it was for me when I received mine, that I needed to understand what was my driving force in life. Because if you don't understand that, my friend, let me tell you something. You are a slave to a force that you don't even know exists. And by the way, you know how I got to all of this? It started with the very basic question of, why am I depressed when I have such a beautiful life? Which is what everybody started asking me. When I was telling people I was depressed, people were like, what, are you crazy? Dude, you're like international DJ, you travel all around the world, you're always like in concerts, tens of thousands of people of like every event in, out, celebrities, you're a dude, like TV show, radio show, have your business. How can you be depressed? And I initially was like, yeah, I don't know, I'm not. I don't feel it. And then I was like, listen, what? And that's how the question started. Wait a second, I am depressed. And I had this life that nobody ever thought I would be depressed. See, the perspective shift was so different. I knew something wasn't right for me. I knew I had these emotional roller coasters to deal with inside of me, but I didn't know why any of them are happening. And I wasn't even thinking I had anything extraordinary. My life was just my life. I used to always do what I did because I loved what I did. So, long story short, I started changing the question that I kept on asking myself. I started asking myself, well, wait a second. Why am I not happy? I have an amazing life. Why was I even depressed? And then I just start with that question, and that question becomes, very quickly obvious that why is the entire world depressed? Humanity is living in conditions today that are extraordinary compared to just 100 years ago. Think about it. There is no way you could convince yourself anywhere you go in the world, the most remote places, within a few hours, you're going to find some sort of medical care. Everybody has vaccines. Everybody has antibiotics. Everybody has drinking water. At least 80% of planet Earth have access to clean water, electricity. But then we have some of the highest numbers of depression. People are taking their lives more than ever before. So something is not going right. And that's how the questions for me started. My friend, that's it for us on this first episode of 360 Degrees of Bliss. I really appreciate you being with me. If this helped you in any way, thank you. And all I ask for in return is to just stay with us, come back. I'm going to be sharing more of these. And don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification button so you will get notified when the next video comes up, because you never know what the next topic of conversation and what the next question is going to be, which we're going to be talking about together. I love you no matter where you are and who you are in the world. And I know you have a beautiful, beautiful soul. Don't ever think you're anything less than whole and perfect. And that is all there is. So be it. Have a blissful rest of the day. Bliss out.